when you talk about Yahweh as opposed to the Babylonian gods, there's a very big difference in character. Could you speak a little bit to that of the character you see in the gods of Mesopotamia as opposed to Israel's God?
Yes, and I'll try to be brief because I know our time is coming down. But the point is, I I think the best, by the way, the best book to look at this whole issue happens to be from my professor Bucciolati, who wrote a book about, I think it came out a year ago in English, simply
Okay.
called "When on High." And it's basically a comparative study of Mesopotamian and Israelite cognitive environments. And there's nobody else who could do it like he could because, like I said, he was raised in a very strong Catholic tradition, and he had a high degree in biblical studies, graduate degree before he decided to go into the ancient Near East. And so he's making these connections, and the difference couldn't be more stark. Maybe even in origin stories. You know, you think about it. Why are humans created in Genesis 1? Well, we're actually not really told why they're created, but God seems to think it was worth creating them in, of course, the divine image. Whatever that means, I'm not entirely sure, but there's a cognate in Akkadian, which the word Salmat or Tsela means statue. And so it means you're some sort of outer representation of the divine being. And then the word image or likeness seems to be something about the inner representation of God. And so we're sort of, where are his image bearers? And so that in other words, we have a very, very important position. We're all, in a sense, royalty in the sense that we're all in a leadership position, which, of course, probably would be funny if Moses is writing to a bunch of slaves in Egypt. They're probably elbowing each other. Get a load out
Yeah.
of, get a load of that. He thinks we're all royalty. I wonder what he's going to do with our shackles here. Um,
And
and
was that like in Mesopotamia, was that image was more a royal image as
yeah,
opposed to
oh,
whereas
oh,
in the
yeah,
Hebrew gives more of a humanity, everybody gets
yeah.
the image of God, which is
And then and then secondly, if you look at, in fact, all of the Mesopotamian creation epics, by the way, they have lots of differences and lots of them are opposite each other. But when it comes to humanity, they're pretty unified in the fact that humanity is sort of an afterthought. There's been war in the heavenly realm. The gods have been fighting. And then it says, for example, that what in the latest one, the Babylonian one, Marduk is of course becomes the king of the gods, even though he's a new god, and he's now going to build the superstructure of the universe, and the centerpiece is going to be Babylon, and he wants people to be building Babylon. Well, there are no humans yet, so it's the gods who are doing it. In fact, they're simply called the Anunnaki at that point, which, by the way, is just a catch-all phrase for all the gods at this point.
okay.
Later on, it becomes netherworld gods. And then, of course, in popular tradition, they become outer space aliens. But
Right.
I, I'm not going to go there right now. But
Okay.
um, the point is that humans are created as an afterthought to do all the hard labor that the gods don't want to do, building, dredging canals, getting food and drink, etc. So we're not even there to have a personal relationship with the gods. If I have a tough time with it, I might want to try to make a deal with a particular deity who will now help me out as long as I'm uh, making a deal with them. But even the gods, by the way, the sum total of the power of all the gods in Mesopotamia isn't the power of the universe. There's something behind them, either even intellectually speaking. It's like the order of the universe, which has no personhood to it. Um, but even the gods have to abide by this cosmic order of things. Um, and so the gods, most of them really don't have much of a personality. And the difference between them and, let's say, the God of Israel is the God of Israel is very unpredictable. Now, of course, if you're raised with the Bible and you've read all the stories, it's like, yeah, I know what God's going to do. I already read it. But if you're reading it for
Right.
the first time, it's like, he did what? Why did he
Yeah.
do that? That's completely unlike, the last thing he did. Um,
Right.
and so the God in the Bible has, loads of personality, to the infinite, um, and strong feelings, either positive or negative about things. In fact, even that when it says he's jealous, it's actually zealous. But um, and so they couldn't be more opposite. And of course, if I'm in Israel and I'm talking to a Mesopotamian, they're talking about the power of the universe, I'm saying, I know what that is. It's actually a transcendent being. It's who has personhood, and he's beyond all this other stuff that you're dealing with. Um, and of course, the Bible understands that, except it uses the same term for God and all the other gods. It's the same word, which has been confusing to us in the modern audience, as if, well, what's the difference? Well, there's a huge difference, because the term Elohim does not talk about nature, it's talking about function and authority. Uh,
Hmm.
and so um, there is no word for what God is really in terms of his nature. It does the Hebrew writers have no interest in that question. It's just that God, it's a given. What is he? We don't know. He's the sum total of the power of the universe, and he's outside of it. So how am I supposed to describe him? Whenever he's described, it's with earthly terms, and it's incomplete. So
Yeah.
it's like these two cultural traditions, they come from the same environment, but it's like they couldn't be more different.